I'll just say a few words. If you have to say anything, what should we say? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, who brought us this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and everything else that goes with it, including Sri Sri Gauranitai, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, Jagannath Subhadra Baladev, and all the devotees. So just a few words before I go away, and I can just encourage you to continue the service that you're doing to the Sankirtan movement, Srila Prabhupada's mission, and especially to Sri Sri Gauranitai, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, Jagannath Subhadra Baladev. Yes. Technical expertise required. Did you all hear what I just said before this? Little bit. Well, I can say it again if you like. As much as I can remember. See, memory is so short. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, anything he heard, he would remember his whole life. And something I said just 2 minutes ago, I'm afraid I may have forgotten it. Anyway, I was saying, encouraging you all to please continue service to the Sankirtan movement, to Srila Prabhupada's mission, especially to Sri Sri Gauranitai, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, Jagannath Subhadra Baladev, Sudarshan Chakra, and to all their devotees. There's a very special place, Denver. From the Kami's point of view, what's special about Denver? You're a mile high, head in the clouds. Anything else? Boulder's a university town. There's no... Is the... Dog food factory. Really, they supply dog food all over America. Hare Krishna. From the spiritual point of view, this place is very special because Srila Prabhupada came here, because deities are being worshipped here, because you are all here every day chanting Hare Krishna. That makes it a holy place. Mother Nidra has been here since as long as anyone can remember, worshipping the deities, distributing books, a lot of books, not just a few here and there, a lot. She's always up there in the top distributors in America. Jai, Hare Krishna. So, you should increase. That was one of the things that Srila Prabhupada always said, right? He always wanted to increase it. So there's two ways of increasing. One is quantity and another is quality. So there's always room for improvement in both fields. We'll know that our movement is successful in Denver when the dog food factory closes down. Got a long way to go, but by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, everything is possible. And in the university, they study Prabhupada's books only. Maybe some other shastras, the history of the decadent world and how Prabhupada saved it. There may be a few other subjects, but the central subject should be Prabhupada's books. So when we say that, usually devotees, well, it almost seems like a joke, doesn't it, when we say it now? But actually that was Srila Prabhupada's aim, and he was serious. He wasn't joking when he said that by the spread of the Sankirtan movement, the slaughterhouses should be closed. The slaughterhouse schools should be converted to centers of study of the spiritual truth of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada is very serious about it. It may seem impossible, but that's what everyone thought when Srila Prabhupada wanted to come to America in the first place. They thought, what are you going to do there? Old man? People aren't interested. But Srila Prabhupada had faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. And he was able to do what he did. And he wanted his disciples and grand-disciples to continue spreading more and more and more. So there's good opportunity in Denver, in as much as, from what little I've seen here, but it's not difficult to understand, that people are not as crazy as in Los Angeles, for instance. The fever of materialistic passion and ignorance is not so intense. And there seems to be a good opportunity for making devotees, even from the very earliest days of the movement, from what I understand. That I believe, first of all, Bhavananda came here in this area. Was it? Is that right? At least he claimed like that. He said he came to Boulder, I believe it was. And their first recruit was a hippie with very long hair, which is very prestigious among hippies. So he got shaved up and he had the longest shikha in the movement, and that was Dinabandhu Prabhu. You don't know? They must know him. You know. So it's been a good place for preaching, it seems, since the very earliest times. There are all kinds of alternatively minded people around here. So it's a good possibility for making devotees. It's I would say it's definitely more difficult, even though there are so many more people in the big cities like Los Angeles and New York, but people are so wrapped up in their own highly passionate lives and so distrustful and arrogant that it's difficult. It's definitely more difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. So, and there's good possibility here. And between the devotees here, maybe a small community, but between them there's several hundred years of experience in devotional service. Put it all together. So that's a great asset now, also. Mahatattva Prabhu has come here for 1 month, so you could take advantage of his association also, because he's been able to establish over the last few years, it didn't happen in a few days, but in the last few years he's been able to establish a steady and strong brahmachari ashram in San Diego, which is possibly the most unlikely place in the whole of the United States of America. For not only San Diego, but on Pacific Beach, which is even more unlikely than downtown San Diego. It's a sense gratification capital, not maybe in the same intense way as Las Vegas or Los Angeles, but it's the complacent, sunny beach scene with many young people who are happily enjoying life, so they think. So he's been able to establish a brahmachari ashram there, so definitely there's good scope here. Whenever I've come here, I think it's the 4th time I came here. Third, definitely at least third time. There are always some young men living in the ashram. They're coming, checking it out. So with a more coordinated effort, then I think we can see many young brahmacharis come in and go out. Means they go out and distribute books and bring more people back. That way they should go out, not out altogether. Should go out like a, what's that? They have these balls, what's that called? Yo-yo. Phew, it's the first time I thought of a yo-yo for the last 40 years or so. Well, maybe I do remember some things. Like that. Goes out, comes back. So like that. Go out every day, come back to the temple, get spiritually rejuvenated, and go out for preaching more and more and more. So, that's what I have to say. You may say it's like a pep talk, like in the sports, they have pep talks, but it's not exactly like that. It's not that trying to inspire you by some mundane, competitive incentive, but how we can serve Krishna and Krishna's mission. For our own spiritual advancement also, it's a very great time, because a little effort in trying to help to spread the Sankirtan movement at this time will bring upon us great showers of mercy. So despite our own failings, our drawbacks, if we try to do something to serve this Sankirtan mission, despite all difficulties and obstacles, then certainly we become eligible to receive profuse mercy from Srila Prabhupada and all the previous acharyas and Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there's a few words from me, and if there are any questions, I can take one or two before I go.
I was just going to say, I was saying you go to the Denver International Airport over there. My mother, I was with her, and the Lord gave her Bhakti. And she took it home, and I didn't know that 9 years later I would be in the movement. So the power of God.
Oh, that's very nice, yeah. Did you all hear that? Mataji, 10 years, at the age of 10 years in the Denver airport, a mother got Bhagavad Gita. When we say Bhagavad Gita, that generally means Bhagavad Gita as it is, right? Doesn't mean Bhagavad Gita's edition by anyone else, Prabhupada's Gita. And you didn't realize that 9 years later, you'd be... Your father was liberal-minded. He was a hippie also? More impersonally minded. That is the problem, that generally with people who are spiritually minded all over the world. Well, maybe in some countries less so. But pretty much everywhere now. But, well, in the modern industrialized world, we can say, people who are spiritually minded in the modern age, they tend to be impersonalistic. Many times devotees ask me to write a book against impersonalism, but I always say that we already have the greatest book. It's called Bhagavad Gita as it is. And it's really almost on every page Prabhupada is smashing impersonalism. There is a very good book, which I have some copies of, but not here, by my godbrother Patit Pavan Prabhu, who compiled all the examples and preaching analogies that Srila Prabhupada gave against impersonalism and made it into a conversation book. So that's very good. Yeah. The name of the book is Sri Pushpanjali. So there are a few copies left in America. I'd like to reprint it when it goes out of print, because it's very valuable. We can distribute it to the public, and it's very good for devotees to study also. Being surrounded by a big fog of impersonalism, like a black hole that you enter in. anything you say just enters into the black hole of their minds, and it just gets merged into nothingness. It's actually completely tamagun. They become merged into totally nebulous ideas with they can't think clearly at all, because their whole idea is that everything is a big fog, a big fuzzy fog. So, did you read Bhagavad Gita as it is before you came?
Well, my father was saying my father had a whole basement full of Mayavada books. And I remember I was totally bewildered trying to figure it out. It wasn't when I read it myself, Bhagavad Gita, but it was the first time ever it was really clear.
Jai.
And when I was young, I would just look at the pictures.
Jai. When you were young, you were looking at the pictures. Your father... Jai, it made an impression on your mind. Actually, you're a devotee from previously also. Generally, that's the case. Prabhupada said that those who are coming, that's right there in the perfection of yoga. Prabhupada says that those who are coming to Krishna consciousness, who are taking it up seriously, they must have been practicing in a previous life. So yeah, there's so many Mayavadi books, and you just get more and more confused. Then when you read Srila Prabhupada's books, it's light comes, the clarity is just cuts through all the fog and the nonsense. I also had that experience. I was reading some Mayavadi books. Horrible. I thought they were disgusting, I didn't even know Prabhupada's books, but I knew these people didn't know what they were talking about. They were just pretending, because it was just that one book I read, the first and last book I read of Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha, I think it's called. And the book leads up, and you can see it's coming to some conclusion, leads up, and at the end it's just all, and he saw he was Agni, and he was Indra, and he was Krishna, and just, oh no, all this nonsense of everything is all one again. I was on a boat, on a ship going from Wales to Ireland. I was sitting outside reading it, and I just threw it in the sea in disgust. And then in Ireland I got one of Prabhupada's books, but there was no centre there at the time, so I came back to England to join. So, anything else? Any other questions? Prabhupada memory of mine. Well, I don't have that many, but devotees always ask me. So I made a book about it, but I only brought 2 copies here, and they're not here. I wrote a book called My Memories of Srila Prabhupada. Well, I opened that book, in the new edition, I opened it up by saying, I first met Srila Prabhupada in Ireland. And for those of you who know, Srila Prabhupada never personally went to Ireland. So how did I meet Prabhupada in Ireland? Well, I just gave the clue, in the form of one of his books. Srila Prabhupada he's Parivrajaka Acharya. He's still traveling all over the world in the form of his books. He's going everywhere. So that's how I first met Prabhupada. The first time I saw Srila Prabhupada, he was coming down the stairs at Bhaktivedanta Mana, and I could have seen him at the airport, but we got mixed up. We were doing kirtan at the wrong terminal. And then Harikesh came and said, you're at the wrong terminal, Prabhupada's already left. And then we went. And that was the day after. He was supposed to come the day before, and then it was cancelled, and we were all disappointed. Then we got news he's coming the next day. Then we were at the wrong terminal. And then we rushed back to Bhaktivedanta Mana, but Prabhupada was sick, so he didn't come out that day at all. So the first time, he was at the bottom of the stairs, and he came down the stairs, and many devotees have said this. They had this experience that listening to Prabhupada's lectures and seeing the photos of how he sits just like a king, they had this impression he must be like a very big figure. But my first impression of seeing Prabhupada, he was there walking down the stairs slowly. He was feeling somewhat sick, and right next to him and behind him were Brahmananda. If you know anything about Brahmananda, you know that he's not physically small-bodied. You can see the photos in the Prabhupada Museum over there. And Harikesh is also very, very tall. And they were walking beside Prabhupada very reverentially. And my first impression was, oh, he's so short. Completely mundane. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada came down the stairs and he was surrounded by several devotees. So everyone bowed down, but I didn't bow down because I thought, I want to see him actually. So I just stayed up a second or two more, then I bowed down. Then Srila Prabhupada went in the temple room, and just as he entered, he stopped, and the devotee must have been his servant, and I guess it must have been Shrutakirti, took off his shoes, his slippers. He wore indoor slippers. So I was I wasn't surprised, because when you've been in the movement a few months, practically everything for the first few months, everything's a surprise. Everything's so different. You hear things and see things and you're told things. Everything's different to anything you ever imagined before. Like things like putting mustard oil on before a bath. Who would imagine such? I never heard of mustard oil before, let alone putting one on before. Getting up in the middle of the night and taking a cold shower. Who could have imagined, unless you're on LSD or something? It's just unimaginable, everything about it. So, Srila Prabhupada, the devotee, took off his slippers. So I registered that. Oh, okay, that's something. Then Srila Prabhupada entered the temple room, which was packed with devotees performing kirtan. And then the kirtan stopped and everyone bowed down. I mean, these are very, you might say, very ordinary things. You've all, at least on some video footage, you've all seen this. But for all of us present there, it wasn't an ordinary thing. Prabhupada had come. So then he walked in and all the devotees bowed down, leaving an aisle for Srila Prabhupada to walk through up to the front. So, and then they all stood up, and the kirtan didn't start, and the whole mood was, at least as I perceived it, was one of tremendous awe. It's almost bordering on, not exactly fear, but it was such a tremendous respect. So then Srila Prabhupada went to the front and took darshan of Shri Shri Gaur Nitai and Radha Gokulananda. And he took Charanamrita and went to the back of the class and gave class. And his Srila Prabhupada's daily routine. But but it was very special for all of us. So that was the first time I saw Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
So the question about Krishna being Bhagavad says out of many men only some will start striving for perfection.
Yeah. Out of many men, only one will try for perfection. Of those who achieve perfection, only one knows me in truth. Do you know the verse? Sanskrit? You can learn Sanskrit verses also. This is it's good to learn Sanskrit verses. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada very much wanted that. His disciples would learn the verses. Yeah.
So my question is, when we're talking about expanding the movement,
You were trying to expand the movement, yeah. But there's no one looking for perfection. They don't look for it, we just go and give it anyway. They're not looking for Krishna. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is to go out and they don't even want it. Patra vichar nahi sthana stan. Jai jaha pai tare de premodam. The Panchatattva didn't consider who was fit or who was unfit, because in Kali Yuga no one's fit. Wherever they got the opportunity, they just distributed love of Krishna. So, there may be some people who are looking for the truth, but not many. But by distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, by performing Harinam, by having festivals, public festivals, by distributing prasadam, all these, that awakens people's consciousness so that they do become inclined to accept Krishna. So even if many people don't join immediately or take up Krishna consciousness, we should know that these activities are all purifying and all auspicious. It's for the benefit of everyone. Srila Prabhupada, on the order of his guru, was prepared to preach to the walls, which he did actually. He literally did that. He recorded the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. There was no one there, but he spoke it, and he spoke the basic philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, and that was later transcribed and edited and made into the introduction to his Bhagavad Gita. So, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we don't have that situation where there's no one to listen. But people are more interested in dog food than Krishna. We have a long way to go, no doubt. But if we preach, then what we regularly see is that those devotees who really try to do something for Krishna, then what appears to be miracles takes place. Krishna personally helps. So, go on. Yeah, another of those frequently asked questions. When we join, we are very enthusiastic. As time goes on, we get drained out. We get familiar, yeah. It's amazing actually how we sing such songs, such as E Nivedana Dharo Shakiranugata Karo. Now I'm making this submission. Please make me a follower of the cowherd damsels of Vrindavan. I mean, what a song, but we just sing it like a ritual. And what a prayer, but we sing it like a ritual. So how to get out of that? Well, as with many of these questions, how can we be sincere? How can we be humble? How can we be dedicated? So this question is, how can we remain enthusiastic? So a generic answer to all these questions is associate with devotees who have the quality that we see is lacking in ourselves. That will be very helpful. So as not to get complacent in Krishna consciousness, overly familiar.